We're back, and they meant to say Danielle Johnson because you're looking at me like we're crazy or something. So
I'm missing on that one.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Okay.
I didn't go anywhere. I'm here.
We're here with the Pima County Manager, VP, Pioneer Title, as Mike Dalton. We're talking about title information and title data. And I'll let Sandra start because she was talking about some things in title.
Oh, we just wanted to kind of walk through that title process. So when we're working with buyers and sellers, either one, they may not really understand the reason that they're getting that preliminary title report. And would you kind of break it down for us?
There's Schedule A, and then there's Schedule B on your title commitment, and we send it to both parties to be read. But Schedule A is what needs to be performed in order to have the title transferred. So the buyer is getting the title in their name, and if there's a loan on it, that the lender is in first lien position. Okay. But also, what that is is there something that's existing on the seller's side that needs to be cleaned up in order to transfer property?
Okay.
Like, are there judgments? Are there liens? What are the things that are there that need to be cleared up? Like, recently we just done, and this is general. We had from 30 years ago, there was a bail bonds lien on a property. And we're going, well, what do we do to clean that up? Well, did the person go to jail? No. Well, okay. Well, then there's a release and we'll find it. And did the house get foreclosed on? No. Then that really doesn't exist. But with some of those things, it's with especially with the IRS,
Mm-hmm.
we want to make sure that's taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Because the IRS has some interest in that property if they have the liens filed. So that's really what you need to do to get the property to transfer title. Now, really, the second part is, driven for the buyer to understand how they can use that property.
Is that Schedule B we're talking about?
That's Schedule B, and in there, just there, you're going to get a list of, if it's a platted subdivision, you're going to get standard, like the verbiage is, matters shown on public report, book and page, and then there's through a secure portal, you can go and you'll have those documents to read, and that'll include your anything that the HOA has in place, your covenants, restrictions. Then there'll be easements that are on there. And then depending on the type of property, and there could be a well agreement, there could be a road maintenance agreement. But these are all conditions to how the property can be used. There may be deed restrictions, put on there either by the HOA, and sometimes if it's a non-platted piece of property, meets and bounds, there'll be a deed restrictions that the person selling the property said, hey, I'll sell it to you, but you can't do this with this for a certain time. So you can't sell off another piece of property off of this for like 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're without our approval. So on the Schedule Bs, it's really, I would recommend, any buyer to really sit down and read, and if they have questions, they can go to the agent. They can come to the title company that's produced the title commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of our title people love doing it. It's like, oh, you want to come in and you want to draw something up on a map? Yay! We'll get out all the highlighters and we'll get this thing, and that's part of so people understand really, for what you're buying. If you wanted to put in a bunch of trees or a basketball court and there's an easement, even though there may not be anything there, it's like, maybe we want to rethink that.
Okay.
Before you pay for the basketball court.
Yeah. And so that's just, and also for the buyer, what I like for people to do is understand how you're going to take title, because it does have consequences. And by the way, just for the general public, there is no such title document transferring ownership as a quick claim deed. There is no such thing. There's a quit claim deed, which deeds out interest in a property, but not quickly giving somebody interest to your property. I
do hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And when do you typically see those used?
Well, it depends. There's different ways to transfer property. There's, if you're getting married and you're not married yet, like happened with my wife and I, we're still married. 10 years later.
Congratulations.
We took it as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. But there could be tax consequences with that. So now we got to change it so we're community property with rights of survivorship. And then, depending on, there's other deeds that I would stress that you need to talk to an attorney before trying to perform yourself.
Yes.
There's a beneficiary deed. So if you want the name, your property in your name, but something should happen to you upon your death, the property goes to whom you designate as the beneficiary. So there's lots of different ways of conveying title. But when you're buying the title, first make sure your name's spelled correctly on the title commitment, because that's usually what gets transferred over to the vesting document. Make sure that you have the way you want to hold title correctly. And that's a discussion. People sometimes will just, the one person can qualify for the loan and they're married, so they'll get the property in their name, and then the other person will have to quit their interest because of the community property laws in Arizona. They'll have to quit their interest. But then, you want to talk to an attorney about what do you have after the fact,
okay.
to make sure that if something happens, that person gets the property, by way of a document that conveys it, so it doesn't have to go through probate.
Right.
A longer legal process.
We listened to some exciting information from Mike Dalton, who's the VP for County Manager of Pioneer Title. Thank you for staying with us. If you're looking to buy or sell your home, or if you have any questions concerning real estate, please call the Johnson Smith team at 520-904-7711 is Raymond.
520-850-1725 for Sandra.
520-373-6864 for Danielle.
You're listening to the I Am Real Estate Show on 1030 AM The Voice. We'll be back with more of the show on the last segment.